Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Smith, keteba². It's Friday and today we're extending the video on the verb to do in Georgian. That means we're looking at what we do, what you all do, what you formally do, and what they do. So if you're ready, let's go. Slide 1 now deals with the past, the present, and the future of the verb to make from our perspective. Me, da, shen. Chven. What we are doing together. Ertad. What we were doing together and what we are going to do together. Right? The grammar changes in a tiny way. T, t, t. It really is the only change that is made. Of course, the pronoun chven, which again is optional. That's why here it's been struck through. So just remember that even to make my slide, I'm kind of glad that I don't have to always write chven because the t does all the work, okay? One extra note, I've listed here 1, 2, 3, 4 meals. Standard 4 meals in Georgian, right? Breakfast, lunch, late lunch, or early dinner, and then your dinner. The third one, samkhari, is not a tradition in all families. It depends on how much you ate for sadili and how hungry you are after. So there's not an exact science, but as we are learning, it is nice to have some structure. So just remember, sausme is your first meal. Sadili will be your second one. Samkhari will be your third one if you're still hungry. And vakhshami is the one that you will eat at the end of the day. It is the fourth one. So think of them more as a sequence than a fixed time and a fixed obligation. With that said, what were we doing yesterday? Gushin, chven, vaketebdit qavas. Gushin, chven, vaketebdit qavas. We were making coffee together yesterday. Achla chven vaketebt sachmels. Achla chven vaketebt sachmels. That's what we're doing at the moment. We are busy preparing a meal. Gviansagamos, later on, gavaketebd kharchos. Gviansagamos, later on in the evening, gavaketebd medashen kharchos. Yep, which is a delicious typical dish in Georgia, a little bit like a stew. I've mentioned this before. Questions. What were we doing yesterday? Ras vaketebdit chven. Gushin. Gushin ras vaketebdit chven. What were we doing yesterday? Now I'm with you and I'm hanging out with you and I'm just like, what are we doing now? Ras vaketebd achla. Ras vaketebd achla chven. What are we up to now? What are we doing now? I will say that ras vaketebd achla obviously means what's next. So perhaps in a pure sense, it's better to say ras gavaketebd achla. What are we going to do now? And as we can do this in English, we can do this in Georgian too. Here, when we talk about what we're doing now, often implies what's coming next. So, ras vaketebd achla chven and ras gavaketebd mogvianebit. What are we going to do later on? This one has a more specific time. This one looks directly in the future. So we've got vaketebdit, vaketebt, and gavaketebd in the future. Okay? I'm making an extra t sound because it really is the point and the only major difference in this slide. Dili chven vaketebdit sausmes. That's what we were doing together this morning. We were making breakfast. Dilit vaketebdit sausmes. Achla, ras vaketebd achla. Chven vaketebd samkhars. Chven vaketebd samkhars. This is a very specific thing to prepare this table for us to eat. We were not satisfied by our lunch. We want to eat something together before the dinner is being prepared. So right at this moment, chven medashen vaketebd samkhars. Later on, gavaketebd vakhshams. We have a busy day. Yeah? Gavaketebd mogvianebit vakhshams. Later on, we're going to make dinner. Together. Ertad. Slide 2 now deals with tkwen, and remember, tkwen is a context, isn't it? Tkwen is either somebody like a businessman, somebody formal, one person and you want to show respect, tkwen, or it's more than one person in a group and all eyes are on you, also tkwen. Nothing changes in the construction, but of course the context is different. It's not always crystal clear where that difference is, but you do understand when you are saying sir or madam or y'all, which is a nice phrase in American English, to see at least the quantity of people. That's changed here. And of course, the v that we had between medashen is disappeared. So, tkwen ak etebdit qavas. Gushin, tkwen ak etebdit qavas. Zuchel tkwen ak etebdit qavas. Maybe I talk to you and you haven't slept, and I say, well, you know, that's the reason because you didn't sleep, because tkwen zuchel ak etebdit qavas. You were making coffee really late last night, so now you haven't slept, and that's perhaps why. That's what you were doing, and now we're dealing with the results today, talking about it in the past, but I am being very polite to you. Achla ak etebt sachmels. Maybe I'm talking to you, or I'm talking to a group. Achla ak etebt sachmels. A meal. Let's say, am sachamos in the evening tkwen gaak etebt chais. Am sachamos gaak etebt chais. In the evening, you are going to make tea. Here's some of the questions that you might ask. Ras ak etebdit tkwen. Ras ak etebdit tkwen. What were you doing? Now, it's not often that we ask that rhetorical question, what am I doing? Or what are we doing? So this question is actually of a very high frequency. Ras ak etebdit tkwen. What were you doing? Ras ak etebt tkwen achla. Am tsams ras ak etebt tkwen. What are you doing? And then in the future, let's say gvian sagamos, later on in the evening, ras gak etebt tkwen. Ras gak etebt tkwen. Chval. Chval ras gak etebt tkwen. Here we can see that if I'm talking formally to you, we've now gone into that realm of I'm trying to make plans with you, I'm trying to figure out what you're doing, and I'm waiting for your answer. Tkwen ak etebdi sausmes. Tkwen delete this morning ak etebdit sausmes. Tkwen ak etebt sadils. Tkwen achla ak etebt sadils. You are making lunch right now. That's what you are doing. And I'm talking politely to you. Maybe I want to invite myself to the lunch that you are preparing, and I'm just being ultra polite. Maybe I'm in a house with a person who's not a relative of mine, or actually a very important person, and a relative of mine on top of that. And so, tkwen ak etebt sadils. You all are going to be making dinner. That's the plan that we have made, right? So, gvian sagamos tkwen gak etebt vachshams. Later on, in the evening, you are going to be making dinner. That's what you're going to be doing. Slide 3, now we're talking about them. We're not talking to them, we're talking about them. So often these dialogues are more about curiosity than planning. What were they doing yesterday? That's my thought, these people that we are talking about. Isini ak etebdenen chavas. Isini gushin ak etebdenen chavas. The significant change here when we're talking about them is the t is gone. And there's no v because I'm not part of this. So, isini ak etebdenen chavas. Gushin, yesterday. Achla ak eteben vachshams. Achla ak eteben vachshams. You can tell by the time of the day. It's 9 o'clock, it's 9:30. They're super busy, the kitchen is alive. Isini ak eteben vachshams. They are preparing dinner. Chval isini gak eteben chais. Chval isini gaaqteben chais. Or sachi isini gaaqteben chais. In 2 hours, they're going to be making tea. Future plan. What they have told me. What I remember from what they have said to me. The question is quite an interesting one based upon curiosity. Zuchel, ras aqtebdenen isini. Last night, what were they doing? And maybe my answer will be isini aqtebdenen qavas. Or gushin ras aqtebdenen isini. We could say aqtebdenen sausmes. Delete. Isini aqtebdenen sausmes. Here we can see that we're talking about food with these more or less clear times of the day. So our day reference is actually the food that we're making too. It's not entirely necessary. Let's look at the present tense. Ras aqteben am tsams isini. Right now, at this moment, ras aqteben am tsams isini. What are they doing now, right now? They seem to be up to something. What are they up to right now? As I said before, ras aqteben akhla isini. This question, like in English, can suggest what is their next move? What are they going to do next? Using akhla. Okay, so remember that akhla doesn't always strictly necessarily mean that we are talking about the present as we see it. Isini ras aqteben amsams. What are they doing right now? Akhla ras aqteben isini. What's their next move? Isini ras gaaqteben mugvianebit. Isini ras gaaqteben mugvianebit. What are they going to be doing later on? That's my question. And I can say gaaqteben vachshams. They're going to be making dinner. Isini ras gaaqteben mugvianebit. Gaaqteben vachshams. The N takes away the need for the isini and completes the dialogue. So just to bring these two, just to repeat again, back into the process. Ras aqtebdenen isini aqtebdenen sausmes. Ras aqteben amtsams isini aqteben sadils. They're making lunch. Isini ras gaaqteben vachshams. They're making dinner. This sort of back and forth dialogue using keteba, of course, could be replaced with mumzadeba, which is the act of preparing something, but that's not the topic of today's class, and so that's not what we're practicing. Slide 4, the result is on the table, so we now use the nominative to talk about the thing that you have made, the finished object. We don't use the S here. It's now going to be in the nominative and in the order of which we eat them. Breakfast, lunch, late lunch, dinner. Megavaaqete sausbe. Shengaaqete sadili. Mangaaqeta samkhari. Chvengavaaqetet vachshami. I made breakfast, you made lunch. He or she made late lunch. And then we made dinner together. Now, you all, looking at me, made a meal. It's done. Tukwen gaaqetet sachmeli. Not sachmels. Tukwen gaaqetet sachmeli. You made it, it's finished, it's done. Mat gaaqetes mchadi. Mat gaaqetes mchadi. They made cornbreads. Right? As a snack, maybe. That's what they did in our full menu together. Chadi, mchadi, potato, potato, tomato, tomato. Obviously, clearly, the best grammar is using the M, but chadi. This is the recipe to make mchadi, to make cornbreads. It's really simple. Obviously, arepas if you live in Latin America. Zeti, oil for frying. Tzchali, marili, and then mchadis, pkwili. I think for me, chadis pkwili sounds like what I hear, but that's quite street level. Chadis pkwili should be mchadis pkwili. So chadis pkwili, mchadis pkwili is cleaner, sort of high-level Georgian, let's say. It's actually corn flour, isn't it? So simindi is corn. So then we've got simindis pkwili is corn flour. And when it's done, and it's looking, and it's hot, and it's crunchy, and it's golden, then you say, shechame, shechame. Eat up, eat it. That is the last slide of today. Thank you so much for your attention. Next week, we're going to be looking at animals. No more grammar. So, schovelebi is the topic. Cheetlebi, birds. Brindwelebi, birds too. Gareuli schovelebi, dangerous animals. Sashishi schovelebi, and so on. So, have a nice weekend, and I'll see you then. Bye.